Hobby Quick Hits.
Hobby Quick Hits.
A sports card podcast where we tackle the hobby's hottest topics in depth to help you navigate the sports card landscape and enjoy the hobby we all love. Here's your host, John Newman.
Hey folks, welcome back to another episode of Hobby Quick Hits. Probably going to be a little on the shorter side today. That's nothing wrong with that. Some of you probably are applauding as I say that. But I'm going to talk about, I've titled the show Marinating. And no, that has nothing to do with food or cooking, although I'm a foodie. And I use the term marination. It's obviously I didn't invent the term marination, but I've kind of brought it over to my hobby side, and it's kind of caught on. I've had other people use it and give me credit and say, "Hey, John, I'm taking your advice. I'm gonna marinate this card, and has nothing to do with soaking your card in Montreal steak seasoning or anything like that. But what I mean by it is if you're someone that sells and buys cards, as I do and many others do, it's the act of either buying a card or purchasing, purchasing anything hobby related, a sealed wax box, a set, a card, opening something and pulling something and knowing, hey, I'm not going to do anything with this for a while. I'm going to eventually probably sell it or move it, or list it somewhere for sale. But right now, I'm just going to kind of put it away, not do anything with it. To kind of, sell it now wouldn't make a lot of sense. Now, again, to each your own, hobby your way, all that stuff I like to say, it's all true as far as I'm concerned. But, I've come to do this sort of sitting on something or sort of putting something away and almost forgetting about it. When I say recently, probably in the last 10 years, maybe a little bit longer. When I had my store, in the store days, or when I was doing even shows, as soon as I got something, it went out in the showcase. Or if I was doing shows, I put it on display at the show. And, just from doing this long enough, I guess, just stuff, you learn some things. And I just learned that sometimes, like, to sell now is could you sell it now? Sure, anything can sell. But when you're trying to, hit that ceiling price, do the best you can for yourself. Sometimes putting something away and not being too quick to sell can be beneficial financially. And listen, it's not 100%, it's like anything, right? You can lose too. You marinate a card, a set, a wax box, and something happens where the value of that drops out, or that player, career doesn't pan out, or they get hurt, and you can lose. There are no guarantees in this hobby, as you should know. We were talking about guarantees. I just opened a box of Bowman Heritage, the online exclusive product. It says right on the box, one autograph guaranteed per box. I didn't get the auto. So there you go. Even when there is a guarantee in the hobby, nothing's guaranteed. The box was tremendous. Besides the no auto, I don't know if it was a hot box, but I got extra colors and parallels and so I've sent the form into Topps. Topps has here's a little tidbit. If you ever get an issue like that with Topps, go to Topps websites. They have a form that you can fill out and send in that you didn't get your guaranteed hit. So I got that form on file with Topps. We'll see what they do pertaining to it. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. But overall, the box was great. But, I went off on a little tangent there. But I use that as an example, say there's no guarantees. And even with marination, as I like to call it, there are no guarantees too. What do I base when I do that on a player? I do it mostly with a player, the cards of a player. I do it with wax, but wax is really more just because wax usually goes up as time goes on, as more people start opening it. Breakers start buying more, rip it open. There's less sealed, and the sealed price goes up. That's just simple economics 101, supply and demand. No real super thinking there. But when it comes to players, which I do a lot in that category as well, there is a little more science behind that. And obviously, the player's performance and is going to be a factor on what those cards' values are worth. So I have to look at each player. If it's a player that I think is, going to be better as time goes on, and that's the guessing game, right? But it can be an educated guessing game too. I listen to a lot of minor league podcasts. I follow the minor leagues. In football, I'm a huge college football guy. I see these games and players and performances before they get to the NFL. Then I read, the NFL scouting report. Being a huge Steeler fan, I'm really into the NFL draft. When some guy gets picked in the 4th round and you say, who's that? Never heard of him. I can tell you about him. And that might be the difference there. And so I do that sort of legwork. And so when it comes to putting a player away, marinating a player, there's factors for me. Is, he at his sort of full capacity? I'll use an example. I pull a nice Mike Trout card. Mike Trout is arguably the number 1 player in the game. And he's still got a career. He's probably got another 8-10 years of ball playing ahead of him. Don't get me wrong, but there's no secret there with Mike Trout. So that's someone, if I'm selling something and it's a Trout card, I'm not marinating necessarily Mike Trout. Now, again, certain key cards come into play here. Maybe if I got a Trout update rookie, great, some graded ones, maybe I'll say I'm not going to sell those now. Those are going to appreciate. But, so there's a lot of factors. What kind of card is it, and all that. Well, who is it? But so, Trout, if I get a normal sort of Trout release, a real short printed insert or something numbered, I'm probably going to, list that fairly quickly. If it's I acquire a Trout graded rookie, I'm probably, depends again on the situation, I'm probably just going to put that in my graded box and just let that sit there. That's something that's going to be worth more later on. And I'm not, I don't do this full time anymore. So I'm not in a rush to sell something to pay bills or overhead. So I have that luxury. One of the reasons, I talked about this on another episode of Hobby Quick Hits about getting back into a store and what would be the situation. I almost, part of the reason I almost don't want to, I know it sounds crazy, is I don't want to feel like I have to sell things before I want to. And I think with the store, and depending on every situation is different, you get overhead. You don't want to hold a lot of stuff back. It's one of my regrets from my store days the first time. I had a store from 92 to 97. One of them, I made sort of 2 mistakes. Some things I held on to when I should have sold them, and they obviously aren't worth what they did. And other ones, I sold 150 Derek Jeter, not all at one time, but in a 2-year span from 93, 94, maybe a little bit into 95. I sold, 150 SP Jeter rookies rather cheaply compared to what we know that card is now. My philosophy then was, he's a Yankee, but I don't think he's as great as people make him out. He's a good-looking Yankee shortstop, and I don't know if he's going to, be a great player. And so I was kind of like selling him for $40-50 at the time. He really hadn't even done nothing yet, so I was just kind of thinking he was overhyped, overrated, and sell these things now. And as we know here in 2021, that card is insane. And so, yeah, I'd like to have a mulligan there, but you can't. And that's, those are the things you learn from. So it's a two-way street. Sometimes you hold on to something too long. I did that plenty of times, and sometimes you sell something too quick or too low, as I mentioned with the Jeter rookie. So, I gave you Trout, for example, and I'll use another guy I have a lot of stuff of. I really do. And that's Luis Robert, the outfielder from the White Sox, 5-tool player, a guy that's been mentioned, Mike Trout's mentioned in his scouting report, similar to Mike Trout, at least that's what the scouts say. I know he had a bad 6 weeks to end the season last year, but he's a guy I like. I've kind of, on that dip, I've bought a bunch of stuff. For me to sell now sort of the dip. Now, I know his stuff still brings good money, but listen, it's still bringing good money on sort of a not so great year, sort of a lukewarm year. And if you believe in him, and I do, and I know others do too, to sell or list him now doesn't make a lot of sense unless you just need the money quick, right? And that might be the case for you. Every situation's different. We're in a pandemic, maybe something, a car broke down, you had a big bill, you lost employment. Every scenario is different. I don't blame anyone. Again, I wouldn't blame you anyway. It's your card. It's hobby your way, as I always say. But for me, who can kind of just put those in a box and just kind of let them sit there, I'm willing to wait until Luis Robert, performs like I think he's going to. And then those cards are obviously going to, the ROI on those cards is going to probably, who knows to what level, 100, 200, 300 times what they are now. And, I bought them at a level. I pulled a lot of them myself. So, you only have what you kind of paid into the box kind of level. But even the ones I bought as individual cards, I got at what I consider a great level, a low ceiling. And so to sit and wait, not a big deal for me. But everyone is in a different situation. I have an adult son. I don't have small kids, and my overhead is not bad in comparison maybe to other people. So what works for me may not work for you, but what works for me may work for you. You may listen to this episode and say, yeah, I like to do that. The other thing I I mentioned two guys that are, playing with Trout and Luis Robert. Another thing I do when it comes to the term marination, if I think a card is or a set or some item is just too low right now, like this should be going for more money, and these prices are too low, I'm going to buy that and put it away because I think there's going to be an increase coming. Let me give you, trying to think of an example to give you a product that I'm doing. I'll give you a couple. So, Montgomery Club 582, they do those sets. I don't know about this year coming, 2021, but I think the first couple years, when that club membership was sort of limited, I don't think there's a ton of those sets out there. And then people are opening them, breaking them up. And so I've been buying some of those sets and just putting them away. Another set that I absolutely love is the 87 minor leagues. 87 Bellingham Mariners, Grippy's first card. Still very affordable. You can get the set anywhere from $125 to $175. What a lot of people do is buy the sets, rip them open, and they come actually shrink wrapped and sealed, but many will open them up and send, if the Griffey is in good shape, and this is a card that that shrink wrap kind of affects the corners. They have some centering issues. This is just kind of a local company that printed them. And so if you get a set and you open it up and that Griffey's in great shape, and you submit it and it gets a 9 or 10, you're going to get $600 to $1,000. And, a lot of people do that. What I've done is I've got one that's, in the PSA for grading, really nice shape. I think it has a shot at least a 9, if not higher. And, other times I have other sets here that are still closed and sealed that I just won't open them. I'm going to keep them. I like the fact that they're factory sealed. And I think they're undervalued. I mean, this is arguably one of the greatest players to play the game. He's never been linked or mentioned to the steroid era, and he's played during it. And if you look at his numbers, if he did that all natural, that just to me makes him even a greater player than we think he is. And I think some of Griffey's stuff is well undervalued still. You can get autograph cards from him, a little, just slightly over $100. And I think, again, you get some of those, probably put them away. I think they're going to increase in value. So to me, this Bellingham Mariner set is undervalued significantly. I sold the Mariano Rivera Tampa Bay Yankees. I actually had 5 of them. And I sold my last one last year for, almost $500-600. Not graded, just the raw. And, I sold the other 4 for probably $200-400 in those ranges. More than the Griffey. And listen, Mariano's probably the greatest reliever of all time, but we know pitchers and hitters and what, who traditionally card-wise is more valuable. And, if you ask most people, especially a non-Yankee fan, you can have a Griffey or you can have a Mariano. Most people, a good percentage, are going to take the Griffey. So, to me, that Griffey-Bellingham set is undervalued. So, that's a set I buy, put away. Sometimes I rip it open, rip out 1 or 2 open just to see what condition the Griffey's in, maybe to submit for grading. And so, a lot, I know some other people are doing that too. So, when it comes to marination, kind of putting the bow on this episode, it can be on, to me, it can be on wax, it can be on sets, it can be on individual players, it can be even on a segment of a card, like with the Trout example I gave. Some Trouts, as soon as I get them, I'll just turn around and list them. Other Trouts I get, graded rookies, I'm going to probably just put away for now, because I just think later on they're going to just be significantly more, and I'm willing to wait for that. I'm in no rush. I don't, while I'm a legitimate sales tax business, I don't have a store. I don't have overhead. My overhead is my home mortgage. And again, that's one of the reasons I'm really hesitant to ever really go and open a brick and mortar store. And I love brick and mortar stores. And they're making a comeback. And to all you guys out there this year, the last year or two have opened, man, that is awesome stuff. Thumbs up for me. But I'm just, speaking for myself here, I actually like the art of marination, if you will. I like doing that. And I feel like if I went into a brick and mortar again, I wouldn't be able to do that to the level I do it now. And I sort of, maybe it's a little superstition, and I don't want to, upset the apple cart, if you will. I don't want to change kind of what I'm doing. 2020 was an absolute incredible year for Newman Sports Card side of the house, and 2021 has started off very good. I don't know if I can expect a repeat performance of 2020, but if the early indications are correct, it's going to be close or similar. We got a long way to go yet, but so I wanted to talk about the term I use a lot, marination. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have any questions pertaining to marination or techniques or strategies I use, again, this is just one person's thoughts and opinion here. But if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. If you differ in opinion or you think, John, you're nuts, you're wrong, let me know too. I'm my door's open to both sides of that aisle. So with that being said, we're going to wrap this episode up. I appreciate you listening to Hobby Quick Hits here on the Sports Card Nation platform. Hobby Quick Hits on Wednesday, Sports Card Nation on Friday. So we'll see you next time. Thanks for listening. Take care. A quick word from one of our national sponsors, but right behind that we'll be giving out our social medias. Feel free to reach out to us. Let us know what you think, or if you have any questions. And like I said, we'll wrap it up after that. Hey folks, thanks for listening to the show. Wanted to give out our social media links where you can follow the show even when you're not listening to it. On Twitter, we are at Hits Hobby, at Hits Hobby, HITSHOBBY. On Instagram, we are at Hobby Quick Hits Podcast, at Hobby Quick Hits Podcast, all one word. Our website is www.sportscardnation.net. Look for the link to Hobby Quick Hits. You'll find us there. And you can always text us on our text line, area code 315-491-0239.
Leave the gun. Take the cannoli.